Great. Okay, fantastic. My name is Dr. Alexandra Sims. I'm a child psychologist by training, and I'm really excited and love the opportunity to teach child psych. It's not on my regular rotation, but this is really my wheelhouse. I typically teach developmental psychopathology as well as abnormal psychology. And so this gets me to talk about lifespan development in a way that's really unique to what I typically get to teach. So I'm so very excited about this. I'm pretty open with folks and letting you know I'm a mom myself. I've got 9, 5, and 3 in terms of age. They're all little boys, and you won't be meeting them on this trip, at least not in person, but you may be virtually. So speaking about course content, I really am going to try to bring things alive as much as I can. You're going to Zoom interview my kids, and I recently found out through a recent CIEE call, it sounds like we've got some Italian children that we're lining up for you to interview, which should be pretty cool. When we did the Ferrara trip, we were able to do some observations at playgrounds. Not really sure how much we're going to be able to do that. But largely, even though this is going to be a lecture course where there's a ton of content, and a ton of information that I'm going to impart to you, we are also going to do some activities the best that we can. Can you do the little icon that raises your hand, or you can actually raise your physical hand so I can see if there are child psych folks in here right now, because I don't want to go too in depth. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So there are some folks. So to give you an idea of any pre-work that you're going to have to do, I do have reading that I'm going to ask you to do for the first day of class. But you've got a really long plane ride before you get to Italy, and there's not going to be anything that can't be done in a little bit of time on that plane ride or leading up. So it's not going to be pre-work in excess. In terms of what you're going to be graded on, you are going to have a final paper. And something that I would like you all to start thinking about is, why are you taking child psych and what do you want to learn about? In the syllabus that I will send you soon, I'll send you some topics that people have done in the past that range from a pre-med person who wanted to do work on teratogens to someone whose parents had recently undergone a divorce and wanted to do some research on the effect of divorce on the lifespan when it occurs in childhood. So this final paper is really for you to really think about child psych, really think about topics, and research the things that you love and want to learn about. So there's the final paper. There's going to be discussion questions throughout. In the past, I had done a comprehensive examination at the end of, at the midpoint and at the end, but I am not doing that. Judging from our experience last time, since we have a small intimate class, I think there's about 6 of us. We're going to do a lot of talking, even though I'm pulling you through slides and pulling us through activities. It's going to be really interactive. And through a survey I'm going to send you soon, I'm going to hope to see what you hope to get out of the class and what you hope to learn from the class and integrate that in. In terms of ed psych, it's a smaller class, smaller than 6. I am very, very excited for it. The main questions I have is, who's trying to become a teacher, who's in the teacher prep program, and why are you taking ed psych, and how can this work for you? Very similarly, it's going to be pretty interactive since it is a small class. Even though I'm going to lead us through a lot of content and there's going to be reading, in this class, more so than in child psych, we're going to do a lot of reflection papers. There is no final paper for ed psych for me, but there is going to be kind of a final activity and, again, a lot of reflection exercises. I can answer any individual questions that you might have for me. I don't know the best way to do this because I don't want to. Here's an ed psych principle. You cannot multitask. You might think you can, but it's actually really, really difficult to multitask, and most people can't do it. And so I would hate to ask for you to type in the chat and listen to the next 2 professors that are going to speak, but I will stick around for a little bit. I'll monitor my email if you have any questions for me about child psych or ed psych. I'm up first, so I'm not sure if there's anything that I'm leaving out that people are hoping to learn about. So why don't we do 10 to 15 seconds and I'll look at the chat or wait for folks to unmute. And then I'm just going to pass the mic to the next person. I always do this. I say 10 to 15 seconds, but then I don't actually set a timer. Oh. The one question that came up in the chat, is it possible for us to take more than 2 classes? I do believe this has come up in the past, and it's kind of been a case-by-case situation where we need to talk with you a little bit more about that. So if you are interested in doing that, let's talk further, but it's not a hard yes, and it's not a hard no. Is that pretty accurate? Okay. I don't see any other questions pertaining to my class specifically. So let me pass the mic.
Hi, everybody. I'm Professor Flora. I'm the art historian on the trip. I've met some of you. I've also had some of you in class. I'm very excited to see so many art history majors on the screen, and I'm really excited that we're going to be able to be together in person in Rome. I was I'm excited, just full stop, by this trip, even with all the COVID protocols that we have to implement. But on Monday, when we met with the CIE office in Rome, they actually were quite optimistic that we would get to do and see a lot of things by June, that there would be more opportunities for museums to be open and also opportunities for us to do potential day trips outside of the city and things like that. So stay tuned. We're hoping to get a more concrete provisional schedule. That makes a lot of sense, I know, but pretty much in COVID times, that's how we are going to have to roll until we step off the plane or step onto the bus to Florence or wherever we're going to go. But we're going to be ready for anything. So I am teaching the 2 art history classes, one of which can also count for education. I'll start with the Renaissance art class because that's the one where most of you are taking. Raise your hand if you're in the Renaissance class, or give me a little, I don't know, like hand, like if you're not got it. Perfect. Magdalena, Jenna. All right. Awesome. Yay. I think I recognize many art history majors in this bunch. So we're going to be really hitting the ground running. We're going to do a lot in 4 weeks. We're basically trying to condense. I mean, I'm realistic, but we're condensing a lot of the material that you would spread out over a regular semester into a month. Plus, we have the luxury and privilege of being in one of the great centers of the Renaissance and being able to live and breathe in the space of the art that we're actually learning about. So it's going to be awesome. So in my class, we'll have lectures. By the way, all of the classes will meet twice a week for a 2-hour session. We'll obviously take a break during that session. And the way it's probably going to work, again, we're working on the schedule with the CIE office, is that at least my classes will most likely take place in the morning or earlier in the day, classes in the classroom space, which will be slide lectures with a lot of discussion. I almost never just straight up lecture. It's always discussion based. We'll have readings. We'll go back to a lot of the, sort of the basic, the greatest hits, Giotto, Simone Martini, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, Caravaggio, the big guns, and more. And we'll really also focus on primary sources. We'll have primary sources that we read every week. And I am not going to be giving slide exams as I would if I were teaching in a normal, quote, normal semester. Because of COVID, I actually haven't given a slide exam in now over a year. Instead, there will be essay-based exams, probably 1 or 2. I have to figure out exactly how I want it to work. And they will be asking you to kind of not so much memorize, which is what I often ask in a slide exam, but to really like critically think, to choose objects and to compare them and to like think and write about them together. So that's the basic kind of, information I can give you about Renaissance art. And I think, especially if we're able to do everything that CIE tells us we're able to do, it will be life-changing. So not just because I'm amazing, but because we are going to be in Rome. So it really will be amazing. So then the museums class. So obviously, I originally designed this class because I used to work in museums. As Magdalena knows, because she was in my Tides class this semester, I teach courses on museums and museum education. It's kind of my side field. And obviously, being in a great museum city like Rome, I was hoping we could spend most of our time in the museums. Right now, the museums are closed, but what the CIE folks are telling us is that they are very, very optimistic that museums will open in time for our program if the cases continue to decline as they are, and that the cultural ministry and the government of Italy they're already looking towards opening. So fingers crossed. What will be able to happen and what will not be able to happen, both for the tours we do with the program and the tours we do as a class, is that we can only do a tour in a museum or a site with a licensed guide. That would not be me. I'm a professor, but I'm not a licensed guide in Italy. So CIE is going to provide us with licensed guides for certain trips, museum visits and other site visits. And so for both of my classes, you will probably do some little reaction journal exercises responding to those. But the point is, as a group, we will be able to visit some things with guides, local guides. But for the museums class, we'll also be doing some assignments where you will go by yourself or with one other classmate to a museum for an assignment. So you'll have a written project, sort of like Magdalena knows this is what we did in Tides as well. There was a kind of a group or a pair assigned a museum, and then they go visit it and come back with a report. So there will probably be a structure like that, because we are not allowed to go as a class into a museum and for me to teach you in the galleries, which is kind of a shame, but we'll work with it, right? We'll take what we can get. I just hope we can even go in the museum. And as I think I said in one of the last sessions, if worst case scenario, the museums remain closed, we will work with it. I taught a class on museums last summer that was entirely online. So, and what we'll really sort of pivot to focus on, if that is the case, is museums and COVID. And this will be a unique opportunity to really understand what that is, what that means, right? But I'm very optimistic, especially much more so after our meeting on Monday, that it will be possible to be in the museums together. So similarly, that in the past, I had my museum education students do a kind of portfolio and a presentation on site in a museum. But what I'm probably going to do this year instead is have you do sort of museum papers, like small ones, or one kind of longish, not super long, a few pages at the end. Again, sorry, I don't have much more info, but there won't be any slide exams or, multiple choice tests or anything like that. It's really going to be about looking, experiencing, thinking, and doing a little bit of writing. So yeah, any questions? I'm obviously available on Zoom, in person, totally vaccinated. Let me know if you'd like to talk about anything. And a couple, seconds right now, I'll give the 15-second countdown if anybody has any quick questions they want to ask in the chat, or raising your hand and unmuting yourself, go for it. So I'm really excited.
Holly, I don't want to misrepresent what they were saying about the pass that everyone gets, but maybe.
Oh, yes. Good call. Thank you for mentioning that, Alex. So they have said that the CIA folks in normal times, part of their program and part of our contract with them, they provide what's called a MIC card. It's basically the Municipal Museums Card of Rome. And in fact, while someone else is talking, I can put the link to that to the website. There's actually a City Museums of Rome website in the chat, and there's an English tab. You can look at it and you can see what museums you will be able to visit for free with this card. And it includes some of the really great ones like the Capitoline Museum, the Arapacis, which will absolutely certainly be a part of an assignment for my museums class because it's got an amazing building built by Richard Meyer. And in fact, even if it's closed, the museum is built so that you can actually stand and see the Arapacis from the outside. So we'll be talking about that for sure. A bunch of other the Villa Torlonia, a bunch of other ones too. So yeah, so you'll have, that's another tool that we're going to use, for my classes to be able to kind of go out on your own and by yourself or in pairs to look at things. So question from Bradley, if we do travel to Florence, our travel price is covered in our tuition. Yes, currently a day trip to Florence is planned with a visit to the Uffizi, and they're telling us probably also a lunch cooking class in Florence, which would be super fun, and that is included. Other questions? All right, cool. Well, I will pass the mic to Shannon.
Hi, everyone. I have sinus issues, so excuse this voice. It should be different when we get to Rome. I want to take all of these classes that were just mentioned. Every year I learn so much from my colleagues. I will be teaching the children's and adolescent literature class, which is actually required for early childhood certification in Louisiana. If you want to know anything about teacher preparation at Tulane or getting certified through Louisiana, I'm the person to talk to. And our educational psych class is required for the secondary certification track. In the children's and adolescent literature course, we talk about the history of children's literature in the United States, and then we make some comparisons to Italy. We look at different genres of children's literature in the United States and then make comparisons to Italy. I'm trying to get a trip to one of the local museums, so that the local libraries, so that we have access to compare and contrast lines, art. There's a lot of overlap in our courses. We will also be talking about critical pedagogy, what's missing in children's books, whose voices are heard and whose voices are not heard. So it's a great class, and we get to read children's books the whole time and talk about them. The class has reflections, quizzes, and a final project. The other course is all about Reggio and now Montessori, because there's more Montessori influence in Rome. I'm adding a lot of Montessori materials to what we'll be doing in that course, but we will definitely talk about the Reggio Emilia approach, the Montessori approach in the United States, where it came from, where it started, which is in Rome for the Montessori approach, and not too far away for the Reggio approach. We'll be learning about social constructivism, child development, historical, how these approaches came about and what they look like now. Hopefully we'll get to talk to some teachers. We're working on that, some Montessori teachers in the area. So both of the classes, that class also has reflections, quizzes, and a final project. And for that course, I'll be giving you some readings ahead of time and also a video to watch ahead of time after exams, but before we leave, so that you can get kind of the context of what you're gonna, we have to, as everyone said before me, as soon as we get there, we got to get moving. So I don't want to spend a lot of time in the context. I want you to understand, what is Montessori? Okay, let's see it in action. And of course, I will support that once you get there as well. I'm also going to have the hat on while we're there of like your really fun, cool aunt. And I used to say your mama, but I'm not your mama, although I am a mama. My son's 27. So I've seen everything that could possibly be done. I've seen it. But I really am there to make sure that you know that you can come to me and tell me what's going on, what you need, if something happened, anything, from personal needs to academic needs. That's kind of my role while we're there. And it's been great. It's been great to, if you're not in my class, to develop a relationship with you. On the Fridays, we all go on the trips together. So we really get to build a cohort with each other and get to know each other, which is my favorite part of all of this. And some of you I know already. I see a lot of familiar faces, so that's great. And if I don't know you now and you're interested in education, we have a new teaching and learning minor. So I probably will see you in one of my courses in the future. And then I think the last thing I wanted to just say is I'm going to try to work a little bit more with Dr. Sims with the overlap, because the more research I do, the more I'm like, child development, I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her. So it'll be great for us to think about some overlaps for our students and see who's taken our courses. And then I can't wait to learn more from Dr. Flora too. So that's it for me. Does anyone have any questions or comments about children's and adolescent lit or the Reggio course?
I have a question, as well as a comment after, about texts. I don't know if anyone is wondering about that. The textbooks that I will be using can be available online, so you won't have to haul anything, and any supplemental reading will be posted into Canvas, so you can access it that way. And so my colleagues, I don't know if you have a text or if everything is available online that you might want to share.
I'm so glad you said that, because we need you guys to download our text before you leave, because just in case you can't, this Rome is going to be different from Ferrara, I'm sure. But just in case you can't download them when you get there, something goes on with the internet. So we'd like for you to have them kind of stored and downloaded before we leave for the most convenient. I mean, I'll also have them downloaded on my computer, but that's just best practice.
Yeah, all of my readings will be PDFs. I've already gathered most of them actually from previous years and with a few additions, and they'll all be on Canvas no later than a week before we leave. So you can download them all and you can have them on your computer to read on the plane or on your iPad or whatever. One quick thing I want to mention, I know Annie has a lot to say to us as well, but one thing I want to mention about my classes and just for everyone in general. And maybe the CIE folks will also go over this in a couple of weeks, but when you're thinking about shopping for the trip, I'm always thinking about shopping. You really want to think about having some more modest clothing to wear if you want to, and please, you will want to, if you're in either of my classes, go into any of the churches. And I'm not talking about going into praying, but for praying, I'm talking about going in to look at Caravaggio and like amazing 9th century mosaics and like all kinds of incredible things. In other parts of Italy, they're not always quite as strict about wanting people to dress modestly in the churches, but they are not messing around in Rome. You will not be allowed to enter St. Peter's. You will not be allowed to enter any of the churches if you are wearing tank tops, if you are wearing booty shorts or any kind of like short cutoffs. You really need to be covered from the edges of your shoulders almost to your knees. They're a little less concerned if you're, to a little top of your knee is showing. I've not found that to be an issue. Much more like concern is like if you're wearing like tank tops or crop tops. So save that stuff for when you're going out, and make sure you at least bring a couple of things, or like a sweater or a cardigan or something to put over yourself to cut and to carry with you. It's going to be hot. So what I typically wear, little sundresses, which are comfortable. I even wear them sneakers. And then I bring along, like a cardigan or something and throw it in my bag so that I have it when I need to pop into a church and look at something. So another piece of advice I would say, and I may have more, and I will stop, but binoculars. You can bring a little set of binoculars to look at art and buildings, because you will go into the Sistine Chapel and it's really tall. And if you have binoculars, then you can get a really cool close-up view of the frescoes and the mosaics. So it doesn't have to be an expensive pair, like literally like the tiny kind. You could even buy some there, but it just might be one less thing to think about. But anybody especially in art history, I highly, highly recommend a little set of binoculars. So, all right, that's it for now.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. That is so important. Always thinking about clothing and being respectful and appropriateness. I think all that is very important. To piggyback on that, my advice would be to get like a really versatile scarf or like light cardigan or something that you can just roll up and stick in your bag that you're going to take with you everywhere and forget about it. And let that be your backup. Like, don't take it out. Just make sure you have it so you're never caught in a bind where you feel very self-conscious or barred from going into a place. So really, please take our advice on that. And is this a good time to talk about, like, I'm glad that you brought up the clothing thing, but the laundry piece and that stuff too, or are we? I was a little, I had not traveled to Italy before, and I went with my family a couple of summers ago for this trip, and 5 people laundry is hard regular. And then it was really tricky in Italy just because we don't have access to the big, high efficiency washers and dryers that you might typically have at home. So get ready to see me in the same 4 dresses over and over again over the course of 4 weeks that I will likely be washing in the sink of my bathroom.
I would say, as a content, like Alex, it's great. I'm glad you brought this up, because in the last trip, well, first of all, you will not see a dryer. I mean, I would be very surprised if there is a dryer. So you're going to have to hang out your wash. And secondly, last year, there was one washer for our whole faculty complex, which included other people, not just our 3 faculty and their families. And the washer broke. And so pretty much I washed all of my laundry in the sink for almost 4 weeks. So, just be prepared for that. So again, light sundresses or light clothing, like linen, right? Light things that don't take a ton of time to dry. Hopefully it will be sunny, and hopefully there'll be a window or something you can use to hang your laundry out. And the Roman sun will dry it quickly, but just be prepared. Just be prepared to do some hand wash.
All right, everyone. So I'm Annie Gibson. I'm the director of the Office of Study Abroad, and I am so excited to be able to go on this trip with you all. You all really have a fantastic group of faculty with you who have been doing this and working together for a long time and really have a great team in place. And so my role in your program, though I won't be teaching you any direct courses, I'll be working with you guys a lot on your co-curricular activities and organizing different ways for you to think about your cultural context and think about how to get the most out of your semester, or sorry, your short-term program in Rome. And so I'll be, on these coordinations for museums, helping you think about, best ways to explore your neighborhood, giving you ideas for ways to connect with locals, being there to go out and about. So, like all of the faculty on this course mentioned, I'm here. You can talk to me about anything, and it's a really open line of communication. So I'd love to hear some of the things that you guys are excited about on this trip. Would you type in the chat for me one thing that you're feeling excited about right now in terms of this trip to Italy? Nice. I love it. Yes. Yes. Art, gelato, the Italian sun, food. We're really going to think about the gastronomy of a place and what it tells us about culture. The same about art. You're going to be learning about that in your classes. The ability to sort of figure out a new city and traveling, trying to figure out how the new ways of moving about at this particular moment. So it really is going to be an exciting time. Tell me one thing you guys are nervous about or not sure about. Type that into the chat. Anything that's you're nervous about right now. Yeah, COVID, Italian language. Awesome. Great. Well, I see the Italian there. So I've since we got the green light on this program, I've been doing Duolingo in Italian every day. I haven't missed a day. I've got a straight streak. So I really do recommend that you guys, whether or not you speak any Italian, do try to learn a little bit. So while this program will operate in English and we'll have translators if it ever needs, knowing a word or two and not expecting English to always be the language of privilege is just such an important kind of moment of cultural and being a cultural ambassador in this work you do. So I do highly encourage you to learn a few words of Italian. I'll be working on that right along with you, and excited to practice my phrases with you while we're on site. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit now about COVID stuff to give you kind of the most recent update. And again, I really want to commend you all again at the flexibility that you are showing. It's really difficult from one week to the next. Things shift and there's some uncertainties. And as you hear in the ways that your courses are going to unfold, we've been kind of not holding back on what we're telling you as things will unfold, but one week to the next, we have like a plan A, B, and C that are all operating, and we're waiting to see which ways we'll be able to operate. A, B, and C are all going to be awesome, but before we give you the full rundown, we're just kind of waiting for things to really unfold. We're going to have another pre-departure online session May the 5th, and I'll resend out this link and invite to all of you, which will be very close to when we leave. By then, we'll have a really clear understanding of what will be able to happen in terms of travel. And so it will know very, very clearly what the courses will look like and what co-curriculars we'll have. That's also when we're really going to talk about a lot of the logistics of, what your housing looks like, what on the ground conditions look like, and things like that. As Professor Flora mentioned, we've had really great news in terms of what's happening in Italy currently. The lockdown has been successful in the fact that COVID levels are decreasing. And so April 26th, they are moving to yellow. So that and what that will mean is that we hope that there will be some opening. Restaurants will open for outside dining. There'll be some of it, you'll be able to travel within yellow regions. And so if that trend remains, if that, until our arrival, that's good news for us. It means that most of the field trips that we had planned we'll be able to do. And that are kind of that are the regions outside of Rome. But even if we have kind of a B and C, that then we're going to wait until May 5th to give you the final itinerary, just given the changing nature. I know that some of you may have seen that this week the Department of State announced new travel advisories, and in that travel advisory from the Department of State, 80% of the world is now a level 4, which means it's a do not travel. And I know that seems disconcerting, and the fact that we're seeing that the Department of State is becoming much more conservative in terms of travel, but really what it is the Department of State is aligning with the CDC, with the Center for Disease Control, who have had these kind of more stringent alignment and in place for a while. And so the change of Italy to being a level 4 for the Department of State actually does not show that COVID numbers are worse. In fact, COVID numbers are better. But what it is saying is that the US is being more conservative in terms of when is it appropriate or not appropriate to travel. One of the big reasons of that is that as more and more people are getting vaccinated in the US, when thinking about tourism, there's a trend to think, okay, I'm vaccinated, I can travel. But in fact, travel as a tourist is not easy right now. There's a lot of regulations in place. We've been talking about these COVID tested flights, the PCR testing, the fact that, from one day to the next, there can be a change. And so these limits are a way for the Department of State, I think, to kind of align with kind of world trends, to be a better steward in the world in terms of these new variants that are emerging. And so being sure that we are being kind of doing what needs to happen to support globally the fight against COVID. Our program is in a little bit of a different scenario than a normal tourist, right? You're coming, you have so much support from the beginning, sort of ushering you through. You're going to have many trainings. This is just kind of the beginning to help you understand the cultural context, to help you understand how to navigate the local situation. You have the 4 of us plus a whole on the ground staff in Italy, who you're going to meet virtually May 5th, that are there to support you should anything happen. So it really is, it's a different scenario. That being said, we, again, from one week to the next, we really never know. We're constantly navigating these changes. So I know many of you by now have bought your flights. If you went into you started getting the information about what the COVID tested flights are, where you can get tested, what you need to do to prepare. You'll see that there's some forms and things that will need to be filled out. I'm going to talk you through that a little bit more, but a little later on, just because things continue to be a little uncertain. So it could be that an announcement is made that says, now actually we want you to do it this way, or now we want you to do it that way. So we're still a little bit too far out of travel to know exactly what forms, though you can get a good sense of what is going to need to happen if you look there now. But for now, no need to fill out those forms. You'll see that Delta does recommend that CVS is a good place to get your your PCR test 48 hours prior to departure. So, you know, if you're looking at your local CVS, if there's free PCR tests, you know, that's a great place. You can think about going for your PCR test prior to departure. That will be needed. And again, I'm going to share, for those of you departing New Orleans, when we get closer, I'll let you know where I'll be going. I see a message in the chat about where exactly will we be staying. I'm still waiting for a few of you to finish filling out your housing questionnaire. Isabella James, Jesse Gonan, and Linnea. I'm not sure who all is on this call, but I'm a few of you. And so with that, we're gonna work on some of the housing arrangements. But it's the area where the housing arrangements, it's about a 25-minute walk to the center. You'll be very centrally located, where you'll be able to walk and see many museums and things like that. But by our May 5th, we'll have finalized your housing. I'm just waiting on those final questionnaires from students. And then again, a reminder that there are those documents, that CIEE has some documents, and I think for those of you here, have sent you personal messages if you're missing anything. But for example, that ID style photo, that's important for us to get those museum pass cards. So that's why they're asking for those things. So be sure that you're keeping up on those documents. And also be sure that you have kind of the CIEE portal, and then you have your Tulane portal. So once you've booked your flights and everything, so I know where I can see where you're flying, make sure, just upload that to the Tulane portal as well. I can actually see both ways, but having it in the Tulane portal helps in case, you know, something happens and someone else at Tulane wants to figure out what flight you're on and that sort of thing. So that you'll input your flight information. There's a COVID travel release that you'll be signing. And I think you have one other document in there. I can't remember off the top of my head to sign, but just make sure you've done all your secondary documents in there.
I was just wondering if Isabel was wondering, like, do you know now what kind of housing we're staying in, Isabel, or do you have further questions about the setup?
I just wanted to know like where exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good.
They haven't told us very specifics yet, Isabel, but they did tell us that the neighborhood is called Prati, and I will put that in the chat. And it's a very nice residential neighborhood. It's sort of to the north of St. Peter's Square. And so apparently we will have our classes closer to Piazza Navona. So it's about a 25 minute walk to class. But you walk apparently right past St. Peter's. I don't know if any of you guys are following or are on Instagram. You're probably all still you're just moved on, right? And maybe have a TikTok too. I'm not sure. But the CIE Rome office has an Instagram, and I highly recommend that you follow it if you're on Insta, because it just gives you a great taste of what we're able to do, what CIA is able to provide. Like, for example, even with the restaurants closed, the students were able to go to the Jewish Quarter and get like the carciofi alla Judea, like the Roman fried artichokes, like Jewish style, that are so delicious. And they were able to get them for takeout and eat them on the street, you know? So it's, and then one student posted how, you know, she walks past St. Peter's Square every day. So anyway, yeah, Prati is a really nice neighborhood. It's a little newer. I mean, new meaning it was built in like the 17th century or something, right? There aren't a lot of like medieval churches there, but it's an upscale neighborhood, actually kind of on the shishi side. So it's very safe and, you know, pretty convenient to a lot of the stuff we're going to do.
And I've gotten some questions via email about just about your passport and documents. And so with your passport, we want you to make a photocopy, a color photocopy of that passport for taking around. So in general, you know, you'll need it for all the travel. We'll tell you when you have to take your original passport to somewhere, but in your day-to-day on the street, we do not recommend that you carry your passport with you. So you'll take a copy of your passport. So be sure to do a photocopy of your passport. The same with your vaccination cards. You should bring your vaccination cards, and I would also make a photocopy of your vaccination card. They're doing them for free at Office Depot, Office Max. They'll give you a free laminated copy of your vaccination card. So I recommend that you get that as well, because you will likely need to take that around with you. We don't know yet exactly what the situation is, but for boarding transportation, for example, they're doing rapid tests or vaccination cards. So having your card may help you, opt out of doing a rapid test in a particular moment if we do board a train and that kind of thing. Also, I've got some questions about phone cards. So we need to be able to contact you in case of an emergency. So one, you can contact your phone company here and see, what an international plan would look like. Sometimes, you can get texting and kind of emergency calls, and it's not that expensive. And the other option is to get a SIM card, to get a local SIM card to put in your phone. So either of those will work, but we do need you to have a plan that for how you'll have an international, we can reach you while you're there. So in order to get a SIM card for your phone, you'd have to either buy a cheap burner phone, or you'd have to have an unlocked cell phone so that you can put the SIM card in. And I got some questions about sort of getting back and forth from the airport. We're going to coordinate your transportation with the group back and forth from the airport. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. So I'm going to look at some of your chat questions. Well, our 2-lane immunization, records with suffice. Yes, so your 2-lane records should, so what is I don't know what 2-lane has given you actually. Is it a CDC card? What do you have for 2-lane?
So I'm just talking about like in our portal for immunizations, it does have the record and it says like you received the Pfizer vaccine, both doses, and the date of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I got my vaccine through my lab very early on, and they only would give us a card in between. So I never got a final one, and they just told me it'll be uploaded to your immunizations. But if I should just call them and say, listen, I have my vaccine, I have records of it, I would like the card, I can do that too.
I'm not 100% sure. I would recommend that you call and ask if it's not a big deal to get a card. I think that would be the best thing. Otherwise, you'll need to always carry around like a copy of that printout in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of in this in-between stage because the world really hasn't figured out how, where we're going to put our COVID vaccines. The yellow fever one, there's a special kind of CDC immunization book that, yellow fever vaccines go in. So I don't know I don't know, to be honest, what will be accepted. Italy is a country that tends to be more bureaucratic, and kind of like original documents are important. So I would err on the side of having more options. So bring them both, and that's the best option.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you need to bring your own bedding for housing, or bathrooms be cleaned. So so you will likely not need to bring your own bed sheets, but I'm going to hold off until the May 5th to give you the exact info on that. And these are most likely going to be apartments. So you guys will be in charge of kind of keeping your spaces clean. But again, we'll do the final housing check, description in our May 5th meeting. And if you have any questions about housing before then, I did the housing questionnaire. If any of you have particular things that you want to ask me about or talk to me about, feel free to email me. When should you have your flights booked? You should, in your CIEE portal, there's a date, there's a deadline where they ask you to have your flights booked. I can't remember what that deadline is.
I
Does
think
anyone-
technically it's tomorrow, but don't panic, I would say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's by the 23rd, we had to upload our flight information.
Yeah. So don't panic, but as soon as you can get that flight booked, the better. Just because we're coordinating everyone to be sure that we can get everyone from the airport. If there's a reason why you're waiting, if there's and that, let me know. But as soon as you can get that booked, the better. Are there any other questions that you guys have? Yeah, how does the quarantine in Italy work? So it will depend a bit on what zone, what color, what zone, what part of the lockdown we're in. But so because we're coming on this COVID-free flight, we actually don't have a government instituted quarantine. And the fact that we'll be able to kind of start our program operations as of now, as long as there's no changes, as of now. Things seem as though we'll be able to hit the ground and begin operating our program. The country will be in some level of quarantine, which may mean masks all the time. It doesn't matter, you're running through the park, you'll need to wear a mask. Everyone is masked, at least right now, at all times outside. In public spaces. We are seeing that likely restaurants will be open with outside dining. We're seeing that museums will likely be opened, but not for groups. So will be able to do, sort of give you assignments of things to look in the museum, but you would need to go socially distanced into the spaces. And yes, you can get groceries through all of in the worst of the lockdown situation, you guys would be able to get groceries and cook. Any other questions?
Is there an availability to do like individual trips? Like if Italy allows it, like on a weekend or something, to do a day trip that's not covered in the tuition, is that allowed and something we should like maybe plan for?
There's still a lot that we don't know at this time in terms of what travel will be allowed. What seems as though it will be possible will be that if things go down to yellow, then in Rome, then you would be allowed to travel between yellow regions within Rome. So a lot of it is just going to depend case by case, and then we will, if you do plan any travel that's sort of outside of our trip, of our planned excursions, we need to kind of sign off on it to be sure that it's that everything is going to be okay. The logistics of travel are going to be complicated. It's not going to be as you have imagined. Anytime you're going to get on a bus, anytime you're going to get on a train, likely you're going to be tested. You're going to have to do a rapid test or show vaccination. It's going to be, it's not going to be as easy to kind of travel and get around as one would think. But I'll do everything, and our faculty will, to sort of let you know what is safe, what possibilities exist, give you ideas for things to do in your free time that are at a travel distance that makes sense, and that you're able to do within the confines of COVID.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Should we, if that is allowed, would that be more on like weekend time or like on just days we don't have classes?
Yeah, I'll let the faculty answer this for sure, but weekends is where when you'll have a little more free time. We will do some traveling as a group on the weekends too. So you may have a day during the week where you might have a half day free or a full day free. But we will give you, before we depart, when we get to that May 5th, we'll give you guys an actual itinerary, so you'll know what days you're free, when classes are, etc. Usually you would have it by now, but just because of the uncertainty, we've held off on giving an itinerary, just because a lot is dependent on April 26th and what opens and what doesn't. But
Awesome.
before we depart, you will get that.
Thank you.
An example of a typical day. Who wants to take that one?
Well, I can take that one. So, and I'm imagining, given what we think we're going to be able to do, that it won't, other than wearing masks and maintaining social distancing and not being able to do as much like as a class on site, which is what we would do in the past. I'm imagining that it would be something like you might get up in the morning, eat your breakfast in your apartment, walk on your way to, past St. Peter's on the way to the classroom, have a cappuccino on your way and maybe a pastry, and then come to class. Have class, 1 or 2 classes, depending on your schedule. None of them are going to overlap each other so that, you won't miss class because of somebody else's class. But, you'll have class at the center, at the CIE center, and then a break for lunch, maybe another class. And then, for example, for my classes, most of the museums are open till 7 p.m. So you might spend part of an afternoon, from 5 to 6 or 7 going into a museum or doing an assignment, doing a project. And then it will just depend in the evening what is open. There will almost certainly be a 10 p.m. curfew, and whether or not restaurants, right now, I think the curfew is earlier, like 6 p.m. or something like that. Although that one may have been in red, it gets a little confusing, but we will be able to tell you for sure exactly when you have to be in your apartment. But you can go out to dinner, have a stroll. Hopefully we'll, if things are open, you'll be able to sit in a beautiful piazza outside, have a gelato, have a stroll around. And then on Fridays, that will pretty much be what your class day would look like. And, instead of, if you're not in the museums class or not looking at monuments, you might be doing one of the observation projects for one of the other professors, going to a library for Professor Blady's class, or going to a park to observe children or interview kids for Professor Sims' class. But then on Fridays, typically will be the day trips. So, and right now we're hoping to go to Florence, to Pompeii, and to the Villa d'Este, which is not too far from Rome. It has the Hadrian's Villa at Tivoli, and also this beautiful Renaissance villa there as well that you can see. And then Saturdays and Sundays will be free time. You guys want to add anything?
Any other questions that you all have?
I guess this is a little early, but do we know as of right now, like which meals would be covered, and then to like kind of plan for how much money to bring, like allocated, like for meals?
Yeah, I don't know, Holly, Shannon, Alex, do you guys have estimates of how much students spent on past meals? So basically, when we're on excursions, we're going to do our best to cover your meals. So it's kind of your day-to-day breakfast, lunch, and dinners. Do you guys have any estimates from last year's group or last?
It's been tough because in the past, this is actually the first year we've had students in apartments, which will be a lot better because you guys will be able to cook for yourselves, because some of the students, all the students were in hotels last year, and also in 2019 and 2017. So it was a little more expensive for them. But eating in Italy, I mean, you can go crazy, of course, but in general, it's actually quite a bit cheaper than eating in the States. Groceries are not expensive. Cappuccino is much less than you would pay for a latte at Starbucks, right? So I think, there must be, I think, probably is some kind of online calculator that you might be able to use for Rome to give you a little bit of a sense, but probably you're going to spend more than you think. But, it's always better to estimate high, right? But especially if you're able to cook, even if just going into a bar there means a coffee bar, and get a sandwich for lunch, it's probably going to be like €3. A coffee is going to be €1. You can buy cereal. I'm going to eat out as much as I can just because I've missed Italy, but I'm going to have my cereal for breakfast in my apartment, so you can definitely, strike a balance between enjoying yourself and going out and, staying on budget. So I don't know if Shannon or Alex have any other tips or thoughts on this question.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Alex. It's just so different from Ferrara, right? So it's kind of hard to gauge, but the kitchen is going to be perfect. Especially for someone who loves scrambled eggs, and that you can't find a lot of scrambled eggs in Italy. Um, so yeah, I think we'll save money that way. We're also saving money because we have the laundry facility. And as in the past, students were spending a lot of money on getting their clothes laundered somewhere else, because it was, like we said, everything broke down on us. And the other thing I think students spent money on was just, it's Rome, right? So they want to go shopping a little bit. So just kind of say, this is my shopping money, this is my eating money, and this is my, miscellaneous money. But I don't think it's going to be that bad if you are okay with doing with, like Dr. Flora said, eating your cereal in the morning, getting some snacks, getting some things that you can just grab in your fridge and cook in your kitchen, and then spoiling yourself, every other day or every day, however you want to do that for your own budget. I'm very frugal, so I can help you with this.
Yeah, and I mean, and actually, Italians are very frugal too. Like they are some of the cheapest people on this planet, for real. So, but they also have high taste. So you will get high quality food and experiences for very little money. Like even if you go out to a fancy restaurant and drink wine or whatever, you will pay way less for the same kind of meal than you would pay here in New Orleans, like way less. So the spoiling experiences also can be attainable, right? There's plenty of great restaurants in Rome that are not ridiculous, right? And you'll get the quality of food is so high compared to what you would pay in the States.
And as Dr. Flora mentioned, going online. So think about what your habits are. So if you're thinking, I want to eat at I'm going to go grocery shopping and eat at sort of inexpensive restaurants. There are these online sites that calculate these things for you that say, the range of an inexpensive meal is between like 7 and 20 euros. I'm just looking at a site right now. And so 15 euros a day is like the median price for an inexpensive meal. If you like to go out to, if you want to splurge for a big fancy restaurant, then, you'll see how much that costs and then kind of budget what you think. So you can look at the market prices for your basics for food too, and then shopping. There are these calculators that give you a sense. Each student is so different in how much they expect to spend, and then travel also can be more expensive.
Yeah, it sounds like the takeaway message is stuff is relatively the same, if not a little cheaper, but it's going to look so good that you're going to over order. Like you're probably going to want to order more, which just be mindful of your ability to be able to do that. And I do recall a similar takeaway culture. Like I do think that you can wrap things up and take things home. At least that's what I recall from last time, which is really nice. I know that my family and myself included ate gelato like almost every day, and that was on the cheap side. That was actually not terribly expensive at all. And I don't know how I managed it, but I ate what I wanted, and I think I lost 5 pounds somehow. And I swear, I think it's because I sweated it all out from walking around everywhere last time. So I definitely enjoyed myself. I feel like I did not overspend food wise, but that's because I am pretty frugal myself and was really thinking like, how many meals can this last me? And do I really need to order 3 side items or can I be happy with what I have right now?
I mean, when I was y'all's age, I traveled in Italy and I ate nothing but gelato and they have this particular kind of like snack in Rome called pizza rustica, and it's pizza, but they make it in these shops that have these big, long, like a huge slab of pizza, and you go there and they weigh it. Like you tell them how much you want. Like you basically can, even if you can't speak Italian, be like, I want this size, and they cut it there, they heat it up, they weigh it, and you pay by weight. So basically, pizza rustica and gelato will keep you alive. And you could probably eat just that for the entire trip and not spend more than like a max of 10 euros a day. And you would still have a great time. So
the other thing that is cheap are healthcare, and I say that because I want to talk about masks. So in Europe right now, cloth masks are not acceptable. They need to be the KN95 or the surgical masks. And so bring those masks, and but you don't have to go out and buy them if you don't have a ton of them, because at the pharmacy they'll be a lot cheaper than they're in the US. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and you'll be able to buy a lot of stuff when you get there. Like, don't be worried about bringing a month's worth of shampoo, right? Like, you can literally just go to the cheap €1 store or wherever, the supermarket, and get, shampoo, soap, like all that stuff. You could, bring a few things for the first few days while you're kind of getting oriented. But I think with CIE's support, they're going to show us exactly where to get all our necessities right off the bat. So you'll be able to, you don't need to bring a ton of stuff. You'll be able to get most of everything you need there.
And then finally, we started this WhatsApp group for you guys, and it is for you right now, to be able to connect with each other. And of course, we'll be also sending pertinent information in the WhatsApp group. But feel free to meet one another through that WhatsApp group. If you are in, exchange numbers. If you don't want to just talk in that WhatsApp group, you can connect outside of it, ask questions. We can answer through that. We will, when we get on site, use that to give you, updates and coordinate when we're meeting in different places. But for now, it's a great way to just connect and meet some of the people that you'll be traveling with. And so I encourage you, hey, what are you packing? Hey, I'm nervous about this. Feel free to chat it up in the WhatsApp group. And Metro passes, I think we will again, let's hold off on that question just until we know the final what the scenario looks like. We will likely purchase some Metro passes in terms of where we are traveling if needed. Otherwise, there would be a cost to the Metro, but it's not super expensive. So you can but that would be an extra cost. All right. Any other questions for now? Again, on May 5th, that'll be our final one, where we're really going to talk about logistics. We'll talk about your packing list. We'll talk about the travel, everything that you need to do to get on the plane, and those logistics. We're going to talk to you through your housing. You'll have people in Italy that can talk to you about what life is like on the ground. So we'll really get to the nitty-gritty on May 5th. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop the recording.